Now, US President Donald Trump has announced that he would lift all American sanctions on Syria.
Trump made this surprise announcement while he was addressing the Saudi-US Investment Forum in Riyadh. During his address, Trump said that the sanctions had served an important function, but it was now time for Syria to move forward. Trump said he made the decision after discussions with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Turkey's President Erdogan.
Very pleased to announce that Secretary Marco Rubio will be meeting with the new Syrian foreign minister in Turkey later this week. And very importantly, after discussing the situation in Syria with the Crown Prince, your Crown Prince, and also with President Erdogan of Turkey, who called me the other day and asked for a very similar thing, among others, and friends of mine, people that I have a lot of respect for in the Middle East, I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness.
Now, Trump's announcement drew thunderous applause from the audience. The Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and others gave the US President a standing ovation.
According to the White House, Trump would meet Syria's interim president al-Shara, who is expected to fly to Riyadh today. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio will also meet the Syrian Foreign Minister al-Shabani in Turkey later in the week. Now, the US had imposed tough sanctions on Syria during the rule of Bashar al-Assad and kept them in place since he was toppled from power in December of last year by an offensive led by al-Shara. Saudi Arabia has been a leading voice calling for the sanctions on Syria to be lifted now that Assad is no longer in power. Syrians in Damascus took to the streets to celebrate the lifting of the sanctions.
I thank Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, King Salman, and all the Saudi people for this moment of chivalry. Their support has been with us from the day we began the revolution until now. A million thanks.
Now, Trump's announcement was also welcomed by the United Nations, which had been urging countries to lift sanctions on Syria. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said that the sanctions relief would aid the reconstruction of Syria and help the country to recover from more than a decade of conflict.
It was important for us to see relief on sanctions on Syria, to help the reconstruction of Syria, to help the Syrian people recover from more than a decade of conflict, a decade of underinvestment. And we continue to support the reconstruction, whether it's physical or psychological, of Syria, for it to be a country where all Syrians of all faiths, of all ethnicities and minorities feel safe and represented.
Now, US President Donald Trump kicked off his 4-day West Asia trip on Tuesday by paying a visit to Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
Listen in to this report sent by our correspondent Susan Tehrani. She tells us what all lies ahead for Trump during this visit.
Of course, President Trump during this trip is also visiting Qatar and the UAE. Beyond economics, his Middle East trip is focused on strengthening regional security alliances, and Iran is a big part of that conversation. In remarks on Tuesday, President Trump emphasized the need to counter, quote, destabilizing regimes in the region, calling Iran's recent actions reckless and warning that the U.S. and its partners would not tolerate threats to peace. The defense deal with Saudi Arabia, worth $142 billion, is meant to equip Riyadh with cutting-edge air, naval, and missile systems and ensure interoperability with U.S. forces. Trump is also reaffirming America's commitment to partnership with allies like the UAE and Qatar, of course, but also Jordan, and is pushing for greater cooperation on intelligence and counterterrorism efforts. He's positioning this visit to the Middle East region as part of a broader strategy to, quote, restore American strength abroad and solidify a pro-Western security architecture across the Middle East.